Hi, I'm Sandra Austin, and I've got a couple of new templates that I'm really excited about and excited to show and share with you. The quilt behind me is an antique Joseph's coat that I own, and I want to remake it. I've wanted to remake it for years, and finally it's come to me what I needed to do to be able to do this quick and easy, and something that I can actually finish and not prolong finishing for years. I have a triangle that we're going to cut the background from, and then a petal shape, I'd call it, to do the design. I think I'll cut the backgrounds first. I pre-cut some triangles to cut this from. And locked underneath this template that stays in place really good is some background pieces. And I'll be sewing those together, and the seam lines will actually make the placements for this, this shape. And there those are. And I did several layers at a time. Okay. I need to piece these together in a layout that I can put back together. Okay, this is the layout that I want to go to the machine and sew here, sew here, sew these two together, and sew these two together. Then after these are joined in pairs, then I'll join here, and I'll join here, and then I'll make the long seam and bring it all together. And that'll be our portable to the ironing board piece that we'll fuse to. Okay, I'm ready to join these together. The little cross cut on the ends that I've made, that's going to help you with your alignment if you'll just line them straight up like that and do a nice 1/4 inch seam. This is going to work real nice for you. And that needs a nice pressing. And now we're ready to sew these to some fusible. to align the fusible to where it's going to do the work. This has got the glue side on it, and we want to put the pretty side down on that, and we're going to sew all around that. So I'll meet you back at the machine. Now I'm starting off the edge of the shape onto the fusible, and just going to take a 1/4 inch seam all the way around and go off the end. I'm lifting the presser foot just a little so that I can turn where I need to and stay right along the edge a 1/4 inch away. And I could sit here and sew a whole long string of them together and multitask like that, but you don't want to watch that. So how about if I just start trimming this and show you how it turns out and your edges will be trimmed. I like to cut right across where those seams intersected and cut away some of that bulk. And you could, you know, when you have multiples of these to do, you could go over and use that template again and cut around this and not have to do it with scissors. For you here, I'm just doing it with the scissors. And then another little thing that I like to do is to put some little clips to help those curves smooth in nicely. It don't have to be a lot of them, just 3 or 4 down each side. It'll work. Just be careful not to cut through that thread. Then we turn it over to the fusible side, and I found all you have to do is just kind of poke your pointed scissors in and give it a slit. And turn it around. A little pair of tweezers that I can come in here and turn that tip. And then when you finger press this along the edge, if you'll run your fingernail across the fabric side, you won't be knocking off those sticky dots that are on the fusible. And there's your little shape. And now we're going to go fuse those into place on the background that we built. Okay, we've got different kinds of pins in our sewing kits, and these are the kind that I like to work with when I'm appliquing down, because they don't have like a plastic head or a glass ball or anything that's going to melt. And so we can kind of hold this into a shape that we like. I want these aligned right over the top of your seams. You're going to hide your seams with this applique piece. Once you get it kind of in position, then you need a hot iron to compress about 10 seconds worth, and it'll hold it in place. And we'll do all of those into the position, and I'll be right back. We've got all the, what I call the petal shapes, appliqued on and in place. We would do a number of these before we started joining them together. And then we can bring the next one in and sew this seam and create a whole long line of them. When we create this seam, then then we can come in with more applique shapes and place over each one of these joints. And it starts making the Joseph's coat pattern. And then after these are finished up into rows, and you've got all of them fused in the location that you want, then you can come back in with a small zigzag stitch or top stitch, whichever you choose to use. I just used a contrasting thread here so that you could see. I personally would use an invisible monofilament zigzag all around each one of the petals to complete them. There's another option that we can do quite nicely for the quilt behind us. You might notice has all one color background, where I was using varied colors in my piecing for the background. That's just a design choice. If you want all one color, you can do it easily on like a whole cloth. You know, get a cloth as big as what you want for your quilt to be. And I personally would start in the middle to mark it and then work out. Okay, so let's say that point there where those folds would be the middle. I have a light box. And on that light box, I've drawn a layout where the seams would be. Okay, if you can see through this enough, with some kind of pencil, it really won't matter what you mark with, that you just kind of draw on these placement lines, because these lines are going to be underneath your piecing. You just need them for alignment. So something similar to that. Then I have some brighter colored pieces cut. This is a really good scrappy quilt, as the one behind me is very scrappy. These haven't been fused yet, so they're a little larger. So you're going to think, well, they aren't really the size they should be. Well, they aren't until you put the fusible on them and turn them. So I'm just laying on the petal shapes. And then once you got those fused into place, then you could move the light box. Of course, you wouldn't fuse on your light box. You'd put it on your ironing surface and put some pins on here and move it to your ironing surface, and then relocate the tip of the end of it, and then draw again and draw your placement. And start placing the petals the way that you want them to look in your project. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll be able to do this. I will soon have a pattern out that will have these templates involved with them. Thanks to Martelli for producing these nice pieces for me so that we can make more quilts and have more fun.